Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. My name's Kevin Graham.
And I'm Paul John Dykes.
Today I'm joined by award-winning writer, actor, producer and director David Carswell.
Welcome to Celtic State of Mind, David.
Hi gents, before we start, I just want to say thanks for having us on. I'm genuinely chuffed to be here, so thanks for having us on.
An absolute pleasure.
So you're a friend with Simon Weir, who's a friend of the podcast.
Is it going to be as high tempo as Simon?
I listened to actually the first ever podcast I listened to you guys was Simon's, and I have to say it made me laugh a lot. I hope you're not expecting. Unfortunately, I'm not the charismatic outgoer that he is, you know. But he's got some absolutely brilliant stories. I mean, you know, he loves these old strips and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a lot of nostalgia and tickets, and he's got the office he's got in his house is full of that sort of stuff, you know. So he's dyed in the wool stuff, you know.
As much as I love Celtic memorabilia, my favourite jersey that he's got is the Grant and Star one from the Acid House.
Tambo, the ball Tambo. That was, you know, we talk about that quite a lot because it's obviously he's pals with Irvin. And we talk about it quite a lot. So
it cracks me up. You look at your social media, and every comment and every second post somebody calls him Tambo. It's an iconic.
I stuck with him. I mean, what were we looking at? Was that 30 years ago or something? I mean, that's a long time ago.
A while ago.
You know?
I think it came out just after the original Trainspotting.
It might even.
Or did it precede it?
I think it was before.
Right.
I think it was before. Because I think that would be the Acid House, possibly. I would need to double check. But in my memory of it was that. Through, and I remember I went to the pictures to see it and I didn't know anything about it. One of those ones I just went along and went, give this a try, and it was the trilogy, and they just seemed to get darker and darker and darker. But you found yourself totally drawn in, laughing like, you know, big belly laughs and stuff, you know, and it was. And then of course Trainspotting came along and that was outstanding, you know.
Mm-hmm. But that was my introduction to Simon, and we had to introduce the explicit tag for the podcast for the first time when Simon Weir was on it.
I'll be honest with you, you might have to use the bleep button with me a couple of times. I swear naturally I don't even realise I'm doing it sometimes. So
you're free to do so.
You're a Celtic fan?
Yes.
So what's your Celtic team? The Celtic team that you'll never forget?
Great question. The team of the late 80s. I mean, I would only been an early teenager in the late 80s, but the 88 that 88 era was good. But I would say my team would be the 2003 team, the Martin O'Neill era. You think back, the beautiful thing about social media. I mean, you've got all the lunatics on there. But one of the good things is occasionally you'll just get somebody saying, "Oh, do you remember this game?" And you go, "Not really." And then you watch it and go, "Oh, you know." And that's the games you remember. And that's one of the things I love about social media. And yeah, so things like that. Even just this morning, I was watching a clip of Henrik Larsson's first game back after he got injured, and it's a beautiful moment, you know. And it's all of these sort of things, you know. So for me, I would say the 2003 team, the run to Seville, Hartson's goal against Liverpool, you know, bursting the net. That for me would be the team. Now I'm slightly envious of the young fans now because they're going to have the Rats team, for one of a better word. You know, they're going to have this era where they don't really understand that. I know we get called Celtic Daz and things like that when we think about the 90s and how bad it was, but they're going to have this thing where they've won 7 in a row, and that'll be their team, you know. I would imagine that'll be a lot of those players will be you know, revered in the same way that we look at like Larsson or even further back to the team of the 80s, you know.
I think that was why it was such a shock that Rodgers left the way he did and when he did, because he's creating history. I said to Paul Cuddihy when he was in here, he managed to get on that bus after the double treble.
Right.
And I said, well, we watched the Lisbon cart going around the stadium 50 years later. People will be watching your bus in 50 years' time.
Aye, how things have moved on.
So imagine tainting the history. Imagine tainting it the way he did. What was your thoughts when you heard about Rodgers leaving?
I think I was the same as ever. I never expected him to stay for 10. I have to be honest, I never expected that. I always knew, I'd heard rumours from various people who move in those circles that.
So did we.
That he was off. The analogy I was given was that as soon as somebody flutters their petticoat at him, he'll be off. That was it. So it wasn't maybe so much specifically Leicester. However, to leave. And granted, Neil Lennon's come in and done a brilliant job and just steadying the ship, getting us the points we needed just to get us toward it. But that, let's be honest, if we're being completely honest here, the wheels could have come off the bus spectacularly there.
Definitely.
I mean, 2 or 3 bad results and confidence dips, and so it's all very well him in the future he'll be able to say, I left him in a great position and they went on and still won the league. But he had no way of knowing that when he walked out the door, and I think that's what shocked us all. I expect him to go in the summer. I maybe even expected him to announce he was going in the summer, but not to just. It was the suddenness of it. And call me a cynic, but it just so happened to be that Neil Lennon was available, and Neil Lennon was within post in 24 hours. I know he was due to go on holiday, and he came back. So maybe the conspiracy theory isn't as strong as that, but I still think that there was an inkling that something like that might have happened, and for Neely to leave Hibs. He wasn't sacked and he didn't resign. The whole thing just kind of smacks of maybe some sort of pre-arranged deal.
We're talking about your team being the treble winners under Martin O'Neill, and they went on to obviously get into the UEFA Cup final. Something I never thought I would ever see is us playing in a European final again. And of course, some of the iconic players, Henrik Larsson. But again, we are living special times at the moment. What do you think, comparing where we were there to where we are now in our incredible European pedigree from the 60s and 70s, what do you think we can do, if anything, to improve our performance in Europe? Because that is always going to be mentioned when we're talking of the legacy of Brendan Rodgers. Poor, very, very poor in Europe.
I again, going back to social media, you read a lot of things on there. You read about how 9 out of the 12 seasons in the 60s we reached at least a quarter final. So I mean that's real pedigree, absolute pedigree, winning the cup, getting to the final, etc. I don't think we'll ever be at that stage again. However, to my mind, every 2 or 3 seasons we should go beyond where we're going just now. And it's easy to say, money. But when you look at some of the teams that do well and get results against some of the allegedly bigger teams, they have similar playing budgets. Granted, they may have more of a capital budget in terms of spend on to get the players in, but surely for me it's always been about talent scouting. And that's one of the things I'm really glad that Neil Lennon will bring, because if I don't think anybody could argue that Rodgers' signing policy was flawed at best, I think, in terms of that. Whereas when you look at the players that Lennon brought in the first time, again, the media tried to have a go at him, the WeBuyAnyPlayer.com jokes and stuff. But the bottom line is he brought in some great players, So to me, it's all about that. It's always been about recruitment. If you bring in the right players and the right coach to coach them, you will do better, And it's not a direct sliding scale in terms of money anymore, I don't think, especially in Europa League status. I think we should be able to reach last 16 of Europa League once every 3 or 4 years. Nobody's expecting it to happen every year, but if we, with the right recruitment, the right planning and the right coach, this might sound daft, but if we could have the Lennon team coached by Rodgers, if you could maybe find a balance, that, because again, no matter what you think of Rodgers, he clearly is a very good coach, and he gets the best out of players, and that's what us as a club, I would say, is looking for in terms of developing players.
I think we're developing players as well. You have a look at Ajax, and everybody was going, how can Ajax go to the Bernabeu and put out 3 times Champions League winner Real Madrid? And I'm going, because they produce better players than what we produce. The Dutch have been producing better footballers than what Scotland's produced.
But why do you think that is? I read about PlayStations and stuff, but they've got PlayStations,
Yep.
But and we've brought in the academy system. We've had the academy system now for 10, 15 years.
Imagine Glasgow if it was as liberal as Amsterdam. You wouldn't produce any football players.
Absolutely. One of the points, when you're talking about Rodgers, one of the points I was talking about during the week with a friend of mine, David Connolly, George's laddie, was we should have known, because see when he walked on the pitch, what he was doing with his scarf. Celtic fans didn't do that. And it's obvious now, eh?
Aye.
He was doing this thing that I always remember from Tynecastle. In the 80s and 90s.
Snowstorm.
Aye. And I've seen Liverpool fans doing it. I can never remember Celtic fans doing it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Hands up, I'm going to be honest, I fell for it. I class myself
so
as
did I
class myself as a relatively intelligent guy, and I'm quite cynical and stuff like that. But I heard him. Do you know what? It was like a camera passing him, and he had, I don't know if it was his daughter or something. He had his daughter sitting in the knee, and she was wearing a Celtic strip, and the camera just seemed to pass him, and I just heard him talking about Paul McStay, this, and I was like, oh, he's one of us, yay! But Yeah, where we had, or was it? Does he honestly still believe that? But he just ran out of time and opportunity here, and just saw it as an opportunity. Does it have to be black and white? Does it have to be he was telling all lies? I don't think so. I think there's somewhere in between where he probably does. I think there's someone in the middle where but again, it's that whole thing, isn't it, where people say, he's offered the chance to triple or quadruple his wages. Would we do it in real life? Football makes lunatics out of us all, doesn't it? As the fans who actually buy the season tickets and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think he was a Celtic man. He is.
And
that was the only reason that he turned up in the first place. Utterly convinced of that.
He'd never been to Celtic Park before the day he was unveiled, though.
I didn't know
But then a lot of players are like that. Like, a lot of players play on a Saturday. They're not like me, who goes week in, week out.
Good point. I suppose he'd be busy for the last...
I've spoke to many.
He retired when he was about 20, did he not? You said plenty of time, Kevin. Stop standing up for
Is that again? Is this us trying to kid ourselves? I don't. I think there's a grey area somewhere in the middle. I think in terms of that,
Let's get on to Benny Lynch.
Aye.
Yes, Benny Lynch. So you're a writer?
Yes, primarily, yeah.
Could you tell us what your introduction was to writing, what you started doing, and what you've done up until now before we go on to your current project? So
I'm 45 years old. I got involved in youth theatre when I was 13, and I'm originally from the Inverclyde area, and I was in a youth centre near Dewells and stuff, and we were just hanging about, me and my pal, and somebody came in and said, we've started this youth drama thing, and me and my pal were like, what? It's for lassies and that, They went, well, it's funny you should say that. We've got about 18 lassies and no boys. Me and my pal like, Jake, let's do this, right? So in we went, and we were lucky enough that they'd actually brought somebody down from a thing called Scottish Youth Theatre, this woman who was inspirational. And after one workshop, I was hooked. That was it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And from then on out, I got involved in youth theatre, got involved in Amdram, then I did some professional acting. And what actually led to me doing the writing was I had my own little theatre company, and theatres are really struggling just now, and I decided I wanted to put something more contemporary on, things that people wouldn't normally come to the theatre would want to come and see. So that was the whole thing. When I started looking for scripts like that set in contemporary Scotland, there really wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot there in terms of drama, in terms of comedy. So I thought, I'll give this a bash. And I started out writing one-act plays, so they'd be plays between 30 minutes and 45. You'd put them into like festivals and things like that. And it just developed from there. I've been doing the writing now for about 15 years, and I have to say, it's going well, and I think you're always learning, and you're always hoping to expand and get better. And we've certainly done that. We obviously, there was talk earlier on of the Morton play a couple of years ago. Now, what I was really happy about was it was the history of Morton Football Club. It's called Moniton. That's what Morton fans call Morton, is the Ton, and so Moniton. So, and it's when you're doing something historical, same as the Benny Lynch thing. It's not a documentary. You have to entertain people. People are coming to the theatre; they want to be entertained. So you have to provide them drama. You have to provide them comedy. That's absolutely crucial. You don't want somebody just standing on the stage and saying, and then in 1922 this happened. That's boring, you can't do it. So we did the thing about Morton, and at the end of it all, you get a producer report from the theatre, from the Beacon Theatre in Greenock. We ran for 3 nights. And the biggest compliments I got on there, were that people who basically saying, I got dragged along by my boyfriend or whatever. I don't like football, I don't like Morton, but I love the show. And that's it. I'd also had Morton fans coming on and saying, we learnt things we didn't know, that kind of idea. So we're looking to do exactly the same with Benny, because I think there's been so much made in typical West Coast of Scotland style. We have focused on the downward trajectory he had, and kind of missed out on the positive, the guy that came from the slums to become a famous world champion, just as famous as Jimmy Cagney. And back then, nowadays we've got millions of people that are famous. Back then that wasn't like that, And so it's a full-length play. Play of 2 halves pretty much that shows the rise and the fall. We do that. But most importantly, this is a piece of entertainment. You don't have to like boxing. You don't even have to like Benny Lynch. You don't even have to know who he is. It's an evening of drama and comedy in a typical style, and we just try and move it along so that you can see where he came from. This is a guy who came through unbelievable tragedies as a kid. He lost a wee sister. He lost his brother. Both of them passed away. Brother passed away of meningitis. His wee sister was drowning. His dad went away to the war, came back, didn't want pretty much anything to do with the family. He ended up getting into just the local. A woman took him and his brother on. He just came through a horrendous childhood, but then still managed to get to world champion. But there was issues with alcohol, and to try and put it into perspective, over 10,000 people would come and watch him train just to train. 10,000 people now. The pressure on a wee guy from the Gorbals, knowing that's happening, so what he's come through was phenomenal, and to become Scotland's first undisputed world champion was phenomenal success. So we focus on that and bring it back to the play. It's an evening of entertainment, So
growing up, there was always a Benny Lynch book in my house. My dad was a big fan, and I always then remember him appearing on the front cover of the Gun album, Gallus.
Gallus, that's right.
So he's quite an iconic figure. There has been talk previously about movies and statues. Why do you think now this world of art are embracing Benny?
I know that Robert Carlyle, maybe 10 years ago, he's a massive fan of Benny Lynch, and he wanted to make a film and possibly been himself, and he actually, I'm sure he got a writer involved, and I don't know why that didn't go anywhere, but even, I don't know if you noticed Bobby Carlyle's film, the one set in the barbershop in Glasgow, I don't know if you've seen it. There's actually a scene there where he's got a Benny Lynch poster on the wall, and he talks to the poster and stuff like that. So even he managed to get Benny Lynch into one of his own films. I think just now, if you look at parallels between Benny and the modern man now, it's okay not to be okay, and I just wish that back then people could talk. It just wasn't. The help wasn't available for him. And it's amazing the amount of people. And this is the amazing thing. So, the amount of people who come to me with a Benny Lynch story. So I was messaging Jim Spence, who's the football guy. He went, oh yeah, and I can't remember, forgive me the detail, but my uncle used to spar with him. Right, fine. So then you hear about Joe Miller. Joe Miller was talking to a friend of mine recently, and he said, and telling him about the play. Oh yeah, my granddad used to spar with him. So there's I don't know how this happened. So we go to Dunfermline, which I know you're familiar with, and we goes to the Alhambra Theatre, and somebody at the Alhambra Theatre goes, oh yeah, Benny used to train here. He was sponsored by a local butcher. And you're going, what? This guy, if you're caught about, do you know what I mean? So you're thinking, so there's still a huge love for him, and it's a Hollywood story, but set in the Gorbals. That's the easiest way to put it, But like I say, we have to focus on the fact that this guy came from nothing. In actual fact, it should really be called the Benny Lynch and Sammy Wilson story. Sammy Wilson was his coach and mentor, who was a really interesting guy. I mean, I also think as well, because you've got the success of the Peaky Blinders, so that fashion, that whole 30s thing is very in vogue. It's very, very fashionable, and I think there's a lot to do with that, and everybody looking back to that era as well, But Sammy Wilson he was a bookie, so you can imagine how shady he was, and he ended up you could politely call him an entrepreneur. He made his money through various different ways, but gambling would be his main one, and some of the stories about him having run-ins with Billy Fullerton, people like that, which gets a mention as well, that Billy Fullerton sends somebody down to get money, a tax from Sammy, and because Billy Fullerton's been caught robbing a safe, and so he sends somebody down to get money from him, and Sammy says, see this money, see the money that he was robbing, if he'd got away with it, would he give me any of the money? And the guy goes, no, and he goes, well, fuck off, Will. So, fuck off back to Brigton. Do you know what I mean? So there's loads of these wee stories, and the more I researched it, the better it got. That there's just so much. We started off with a play that was going to be about an hour, and we're now up to an hour and a half, just with all the anecdotes and stories and things like that, that are just coming in. So I think I'll be honest with you, we are hoping that this will develop. We've done a cinematic trailer, and we're hoping that this will. I've already started working on a film script, so we're hoping that it will now move on to that level as a result of the play.
Come on, son. You did better than that. Lift your feet. Lift them. Get the heels up. Lift up the knees. Come on. Fill the lungs. Fill the lungs. Get the arms swinging. Come on, Benny. That's right. Pump it. Pump it, man.
Something behind your eyes, the way you're talking, it's a cheap disguise. We were made to chase the light, but you got saved on a moonless night. Get free tonight, set it all on fire.
I knew Benny was a boxer when I first met him. I know how happy the boxing makes him. But I only ever seem to see the punches that hit him. Not that many do.
So how did it come about then?
Well, you mentioned Simon earlier. So Simon and I are working on quite a few projects, and we sat down in his kitchen and he said, "I've got this idea for this play." And he was at that point speaking to the Statue for Benny people. Great, fantastic. So, and like I say, he said, "Well, let's have a look at it." And he actually at that point he had a picture of Benny, and he had a picture of Stephen Purden, who's going to be playing. Benny Stephen is, for those that don't know, is Shellsuit Bob in River City. And I swear to God, there's a look there. It's quite uncanny,
There is, aye.
And so when all the pieces just started to fall into place, so I went away. I wrote the script, gave it to Stephen. Stephen said he really liked it, he loved it. Stephen's also brought in Holly Jack, who is also in River City. So we're now getting to the stage where we've got this big cast. And our initial thinking was that it might have been a smaller production that toured smaller venues, but it's just grown arms and legs now to the point where we're touring 14 different venues in May and June this year. And things like the Alhambra, which is 1,200 seats, Inverness Eden Court Theatre's 800, so it's a big tour, and most of the venues we're going to are about 500 seats. So that's the average size. There'll be some smaller ones. So we're also taking it rural, which is something I've never done before. So we're taking it to places like Campbelltown, places like Helensburgh, Oban, Dunoon, places like that as well, So it's a nice mix of city and rural, So we'll see how we got on there, But tickets are going well. I have to say, we're pleasantly surprised by the early shift in tickets.
So how long from your first script, giving it to wee Shellsuit Bob, to now?
I think I've been working on it about a year, but Simon's been working on it a lot longer. Like, this is one of this is part of the projects folder, I'm sure he's been working on it for at least a year, if not more than that before, maybe even 2 years, because I know that he had the original idea, and I think as actors do, they met each other at a casting, and it's like, "Oh, how are you getting on? Listen, and I've got this idea, and you'd be really great for it," and stuff like that, and I think it's just the timings as well, I think it's the right time for Stephen, and it turns out it was the right time for everybody else involved. And sometimes in life, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes things just fall into place the right way, and there's very little effort involved in terms of making things happen. And this all seemed to be, everybody just went, "Yeah, that's good for me. Yep, go." And you go, wow, instead of, well, look, sometimes it's like herding cats, isn't it? Trying to get things lined up. And I mean, you guys must find that doing the podcast as well, getting guests at certain times and all that kind of thing. Whereas this just seemed to go, with a slight worry over one of the cast members' availability. But that's now gone. Other than that, though, it got to the stage where I kept thinking something's going to go wrong because nothing's going wrong. It's that you're expecting the cynic in you is just thinking, nah. But no, lo and behold, we're flying. The rehearsals start 1st of May. First show's the 18th of May. So it's grown. There's been a lot of national media coverage as well. STV have been filming with Stephen as well, to do a feature on a new programme they've got coming out. So it's generated a huge amount of interest,
The teasers that were going out on social media, if you didn't think Purden was the man for the job, and you see him made up with the hair, training on Cathkin Park, was there a connection between Benny and Cathkin and Benny and Celtic Park?
Yes, great question. Yes, Benny fought, I think, 3 times at Cathkin Park and won all 3 of them. So as you know, Simon, again, back to Simon, he's the historian, and he knows all about Cathkin Park, he knows all about Benny. So yeah, there was 3 fights there. Now I can't find any direct links between Benny and Celtic Football Club, but given what we know about that era, given that we know that Benny got slashed during a fight when he was younger, in a kind of Catholic Protestant street fight. So we can assume that, I think we can safely assume that Benny was a Celtic supporter, you know. He did fight, he fought at Love Street, he fought, when you look into it, I mean, I'm originally from Gourock, and he fought in the Gamble Halls. Now, I've been to, you know, weddings and stuff, you know, it's that kind of thing, you know, it's just all these different venues. The other thing is that boxers now, they do one fight, they take 3 months off. Benny fought for the Scottish Championship and beat Jim Campbell for it, but the fans were kind of booing, they didn't think it was a fair result, so he wanted to fight him again, just to prove it, you know, he already had the championship, no, I want to fight him again. So say there was 6 weeks in between, he had something like 8 fights, you know, it's insane the number of fights he was doing just on a constant basis, you know, and it's the term punch drunk comes from that era, because he ended up with guys who, you know, I mean, Benny had over 100 fights by the end, you know, and he was only 28, you know, it's crazy, you know.
George Connolly spoke about that on the way to the penalty spot. He spoke about fitness and sharpness, and he was talking about football players, and he says that in his day, even when players weren't as fit as what they are now, he says it still took them 6 to 10 games to get match fit. He says nowadays players are athletes. He says it must take them longer than the 6 to 10 games to get up to match sharpness. But he mentioned boxers. He says, how can boxers be at their peak condition when there's 9 months between their fights? He says they must always be catching up.
He did, because of course, like a lot of the areas, George came from High Valleyfield, which was famed for football and boxing, and that was the point he made, and it was an excellent point. George being one of the sharpest ex-players I've ever spoken to, by the way, and unbelievable knowledge. If you're talking about a game, he'll tell you who the referee was. And there's other players who can barely remember the game, never mind scoring a goal in it. Or
something I was thinking about now up here, can you remember your first Celtic game?
Vividly.
What was yours?
Tommy Burns' testimonial.
Was it?
Yeah, 87.
And yourself?
Capello 1981.
And you came back to football after being at Capello for your first game.
But all I can actually remember is sitting on the wall in the white and blue. I can't remember anything about the game, but I can remember being there.
And mine was February 88. Roy Aitken scoring the last minute penalty against Morton. And again, my dad used to take us to, we lived literally a short walk from Capello up the east end of Greenock, and so sometimes he would just take us down to Capello. He actually took us to see Andy Ritchie. That was the truth be told. That was the era. That was the kind of the first games, and seeing Andy Ritchie scoring from corner. So Andy Ritchie brought people in. You know, he brought football fans in who just wanted to watch Andy Ritchie. So he would take us there, and he would take us to Celtic Park as well. And my brother and I both made the right choice in the end. You know, that kind of. Don't get me wrong. I'll still go along to Capello. Some of my best pals are Morton fans, and I quite like they had the Friday night game for a while as well, and it was like maybe they were playing St Mirren. Now, even if you don't like football, a Morton St Mirren game is fun to watch. Just if you just stand and put your back to the football and just watch the banter between the fans, you know, I have to say and I quite like that. But no, I've been going to Celtic Park since the late 80s, you know. So, but my first game, I remember, because at that point, I'm going to be totally honest, we didn't. I was only, what would that have been, 13 or something? Do you know what I mean? My brother would have been about 10, right? And we both. I think that's the acid. It's that whole thing. If you want to make your mind up between two things, toss a coin. It'll no matter what happens with the coin, because once it's in the air, you know you've made your mind up. You know that forces you to make your mind up, because you know what you want it to be when it lands. And so when Roy Aitken scored the last minute penalty, we both cheered, and that was it. That was the path. That was the path that took us down towards the Celtic, you know. So and we went home happy, you know. So
I think I remember that we had the great centenary a week at the yellow one.
Aye, I've got that one. Yeah, I can't, but again, you see, I can remember the penalty. I can't remember the game. I couldn't remember the strips. But I remember the penalty in the last minute, and I think it might have been a dubious penalty if I'm being honest. But I remember that, and you know, just the feeling and stuff. You know, growing up, probably my hero was Paul McStay, you know, that kind of that era. So, and we'd done a play in the old Arts Guild Theatre in Greenock, and my wee pal, we Johnny McGarity, hello Johnny if you're listening over in Australia, and we went back to his house. Now the McGarity house was amazing. I used to love going there because it just had a fantastic feel, and there was loads of their own kids, but they also fostered and stuff. So after this play, Johnny and Johnny's sister Claire were in the play as well. So they invited us all back to their house for I was only 17 or something. I mean, I was, you know, it was still young. I barely even drinking, I think. But you're bouncing after a show. It was like Saturday night. You're on a high kind of thing. And I bounce into the living room, and I walk in, and and I turned in, it's Paul McStay. Oh, pardon my language, get your beat machine ready. Fucking hell, right? I was like, wow. So I moonwalked when moonwalking was acceptable. I moonwalked out the door, right? And I runs into the kitchen. I'm like, Johnny, Paul McStay's in your living room. That's my Uncle Paul. I was like, what? Fucking, chin on the deck. So of course that's Paul was married to one of Johnny's sisters, and I remember that. And again, I remember being really nervous for about the first 3 minutes, and then he was just a really cool guy. He sat up till like 6 in the morning. He wasn't drinking or anything like that. He sat up till 6 in the morning. One of the night. That thing about don't meet your heroes bullshit. It was just, he was phenomenal. He was so nice, so friendly, just absolutely brilliant, And one other wee anecdote is I was playing golf at one of these charity days down in Gourock, and it's one of these ones where 3 you pay and you get given a celebrity. And the guy who ran it knew I was a Celtic supporter, so he got his Evan Williams, the keeper from the 70 European Cup final. So that was brilliant. So we're out playing, had a nice wee day. So we come back in at the clubhouse. The 2 boys I was with, they had to go. So it's just me and Evan. And one by one, all these lines just keep appearing and coming sitting at the table. So you've got Betty, you've got these guys. And my brain is screaming at me, shut the fuck up. Don't say a word. No matter what you say, you are going to make a tit yourself, right? So I'm just sitting there, but I'm kind of trying to I'm trying to go at people. Look, I'm sitting with you, right? And but it was almost as if I was fresh meat to them. They were like telling me all these stories. But wait to hear what Betty did here and blah, blah, blah. And I have to say, that was the best money I've ever spent. It was just one of the best. We were only sitting for about an hour, right? And then it was Billy McNeil and all. Honestly, I can't begin. It was phenomenal. And it was just that kind of thing where, even then, I'm supposed to be this kind of confident writer guy and who's done plays and that. I'm sitting there like, honestly, it was absolutely outstanding, And Evan, again, I went his, they had a fundraising thing for him at Celtic Park as well. We went there. It was a brilliant night, And again, one of the things I love about players back then is, and the way they are now, John Clark would be a brilliant example. They're so humble and genuinely appreciative of the fans, And again, that was just it was a fantastic wee day,
The one example I can throw in talking about humility is I had been trying to speak to Jim Craig for many, many months, and I'd been given his email address, right? And I sent this request for an interview, and it was for actually my Quality Street Gang book, which was released in 2013, and it was published before he ever got back to me. But then he sent me an email and said, do you still want this interview? I forgot all about this. Give me a phone. Gave me his mobile number, so I phoned him. And I said, actually, the book's finished, but I'm working on a new one about Neely Mockin. He says, right, here's my address, come up and see me.
Nice.
He gave me his home address. So can you imagine, I remember driving up to his house, thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm going up to speak to Jim Craig, sitting in his wee office, chewing the fat about Celtic,
I wonder whether these guys actually get how much we idolise them, though, because it must be difficult being that humble when you're still idolised like that, Just one last wee point. Don't know about you guys, but I want a campaign started. I want the big numbers back on the shorts. I've been saying this for years. Nobody's listening to me.
I'll back that.
Aye, everybody's looking at me as if I'm mental kind of thing when I bring it up. But I want the big numbers back on the shorts. Now that, to my mind, could be a tribute to the Lions team, because that's to me they should bring them back.
I totally agree with you. I'm working on the Celtic jersey book, so I've been doing a lot of study on kits, and I spoke to many years ago Paul Gallagher, older brother of Liam and Noel, and that's what he said. He said Celtic have always been different. When everybody else had numbers on the back, we had them on the shorts, and it's so true. And I'd love to see them back. I mean, you think of Jinky, you think of the numbers.
That's exact. It's an era thing, and fashion's cyclical anyway. But I honestly, mark my words, we do it. 2 years later, loads of people are doing it. Plus, if nothing else, I don't know if you've seen any of these. A lot of the Scandinavian strips have got multiple sponsors. So I think if they put the numbers there, they might not. I don't know if there's some sort of ruling now where you've got to have the numbers on the back.
I think there is a ruling,
but it could maybe free up space. But I don't care. The bottom line is let's get. You guys can do this. You have got massive following. You have got it. Let's get numbers on the shorts. Let's get that back. Yeah,
I'll start that campaign.
One thing that annoys me as well is the European games and have to put the white panel.
I know
that just looks ridiculous. That's
even the very first one against Boa Vista 75. It was a white square with a black number on it.
I love the image that you. I think it was yourself that put online about the painting the Adidas stripes on the boots. I mean, it looks as if it'd been done by a blind person. I mean, it wasn't even good. It wasn't even a good attempt. It was, it was as if one of your Waynes had done it crayon at school.
Every time now, right, you see a picture of Jim Craig or Billy McNeil playing in that game in Lisbon, you'll notice it. Even the famous one where they're all lined up, they're walking out and they're all lined up. Billy's boots, you can see them. And as you say, it's like Tipex.
It's not even as good as that. I don't know what they used. So it was almost as if they'd maybe just went and get stuff like scraped some paint off the white lines on the pitch and just done it with their 3 fingers like that. It's comical. But again, it makes it brilliant. It's a brilliant story. So.
And the guy's got 30 quid a man for wearing the Adidas boots.
I love some of that action. So.
It's a story that makes sense now, because I often wondered when there's a picture of Jock coming off the plane and I had an Adidas holdall, and I'm going, why is that Adidas? And Celtic weren't sponsored by Adidas at that point, and they've never been officially.
Umbro were the official UK distributors of Adidas. So it was a kind of subcontract that they had at that time. They were trying to launch it.
I mean, just brilliant. There's so many, again, when you get into I heard you doing the podcast with Agnes, and I have the pleasure of Agnes's company as well, and some of the stories, there's a cracking story, and I'm trying to find out a bit more detail about it, about the Lions, if not all of them, going to a charity game in Ireland and wearing disguises and stuff.
That's right.
I mean,
masks.
Can you imagine that now? Do you know what I mean? But I mean, there's all these wee stories, that's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, disguises to play football, do you know what I mean, for a charity game.
Yeah, apparently Stanley Matthews used to do it. It was odd because they were getting good money. Exhibition games.
Right, okay. Times fair flying. I said to my missus this morning, again, somebody put the link on Henrik's first game back, and the commentators talking about, well, will he be match fit for Euro 2000? And you're going, Christ on a bike, that's 19 years. What happened? Do you know what I mean? I remember all this. I can't, don't get me wrong, I go down the stair, I go down the stair to get something, I can't remember what I've gone for, but I can remember I came 19 years ago. Time's playing tricks on us, I think,
Henrik had a dubious moustache in that game. Did you notice that?
I never know.
He did.
Oh.
And it was Tommy Burns who was on the sidelines with him. Kenny Dalglish, the interim manager.
That was the youngest ever Celtic team, eh?
Yeah. I think there was half a dozen
Jim
teenagers.
Tidwand played for Celtic. Kennedy.
Simon Lynch.
Aye.
Fotheringham was 16 that day. He, at that time, took over for Roy Aitken as the youngest ever Celt.
That's right.
He's been superseded twice.
Jack Aitchison.
John Kennedy and Aitchison. Now, you've made a play which featured Andy Ritchie, who we've mentioned already, who gets called a cult icon, the idol.
The idol, aye.
Yeah. And then we've got Benny Lynch, who had his demons. What is it about these characters that attracts us as an audience?
Do you know, you mentioned Tommy Burns there. I had the idea actually maybe doing the Tommy Burns story, but when I looked at it properly, you need faults. The Tommy Burns story would just be great guy. Whereas this, when you've got guys who have had their demons or anxiety or issues, we need to see flaws. Otherwise it's just a gang show. You want to see people who are good at heart but have their faults, and you want to be willing them. You want to be willing to do well, and know that they're vulnerable, because let's be honest, we all are. There's absolutely nobody that's not. And I think it's like comedians doing observational humour. We laugh at what we know, and therefore, if you put something up that's just so whether it's Benny Lynch, whether it's Andy Ritchie, whether it's any of the icons who have maybe taken a wee tumble, and like I say, I can't imagine the pressure these guys are under. And some people just can't handle the pressure now. Andy Ritchie's now he's a friend of mine, and as a result of this, and he had this image of being a maverick. I never showed up for training. But then you find out it was actually because on his way doing the M8 he would have an anxiety attack and have to pull in, and so there's things like that, so maybe things were dressed up. Now I went to meet Andy in a place called the Spinnaker Hotel in Gourock, and we were just having a bit of lunch. But before I arrived, I walked in and he was sitting talking to this guy, and a boy was sitting on his own, and it was like 12 o'clock. The boy was sitting drinking pints, and so I come in and Andy says to the boy, right, you take care of yourself. I fine. So being in Inverclyde, I thought it was just a Morton fan and get talking to him, but no, Andy had seen this guy sitting himself, had seen something in him, and went over and just started talking to him, and realised that the boy was actually in a bit of a bad way, and just basically said, look, you could do this, you can do that, and just did that for the boy, and then come over. I think there are people who are flawed. And like I say, back then there was no help. There was no such thing as it's okay not to be okay and stuff. Do we even talk about feelings back then? Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a done thing, and there certainly wasn't help for things with alcohol and all that kind of stuff, I
find it intriguing because Robin Friday, Georgie Best, George Conley, however, we're still here in this day and age with all that education and all that awareness of it, and it's still at a great height. You look at mental health in the music industry. just recently, Keith Flint
Yeah.
joining a long list.
I've got a theory. Now, it's just a theory. You walk out now. Most of my plays will go in audiences of 500 people, right? Just as a rough average, the Beacon Theatre is 500.
That must be nerve-wracking as well.
It's nerve-wracking, right? But that's 500 people, and the buzz you get from a standing ovation is phenomenal, right? There are other things you can do in life that give you a buzz, but this, and I'm not. I know it's an old cliche, but there's nothing like it. That's 500. 500. Now you regularly, if you take that, and all of a sudden you're in front of 50,000 people chanting your name, the buzz you must get from that, the chemicals in your body that must release must be phenomenal, phenomenal. And all of a sudden you go from that to maybe nothing. That there's a chemical. I think there's something that goes on inside you, and they crave it. They crave it, and I think that's maybe the downward spiral we see with some people, where it's they crave that. So instead of they crave this chemical or whatever the endorphins or whatever in the body. But instead they can't get that. So what do? They drink, they maybe do drugs or whatever. Anything to chase that high, to go from that. And I that's just my theory. I've thought about that quite a lot, because you're right, Georgie Best, various other people as well. And I think that has got a lot to do with it. And like I say, literally 500 people to 50,000. I can't even begin it. And honestly, I mean, we have had we've been lucky enough to have good audiences and standing ovations, and I tell you, it's a buzz. So Christ only knows what it's like when it's that level. And like I say, to go from that, even if they were to go from, say, Celtic to, I don't know, St Mirren, and it's still a gradual climb, and eventually they say that's the biggest addictive thing about certain drugs, isn't it? That the first hit you get is never as good as the remainder, and that's what you're always chasing. And I think fame, and we don't just see it in football, we see it in other walks of life as well. But I think that might be a reason why we have flawed geniuses, shall we call it, because they're the ones that get their name sang the most,
Mm-hmm.
See, when your theatre show starts, it'll be the 1st of May when you start the rehearsals.
Yeah.
What's your role at that point? Because you've done a lot of the kind of work up to then.
Yeah, I know. To be honest with you, I'll be more than happy to hand over to the director, and I try and provide him the tools he needs to do the job. So Simon and I, as co-producer, and Stephen's exec producer as well. So he comes to me and just says, so we discuss what he wants for the set. So we've got a set designer, and basically we just give him the tools to do the job. So yeah, we leave that we'll let them go and get on at the rehearsals. What I'll do as the writer, with my writing hat on, is I'll come to the first couple of rehearsals and we'll develop it still further, because you never know until you actually see the actors doing the lines and doing the moves and stuff. You think, well, actually, do you know what, that's maybe a bit long, or that's quite funny, we could develop that. So, I'll watch the first couple of days, then I'll bugger off, do some script editing and fire back in as quick as I can, and then we work on it and develop it. So I have to be honest, that's the bit I'm really looking forward to. The
Spoke to Jim Orr recently, who done Bend It Like That.
I have to say, listen, before you continue, I went and saw that and it was absolutely brilliant. So if Jim's listening, congratulations, Jim, because I never get a chance to see you on the night.
But Jim says that because he had a run previously at Webster's that I went to see, he says after it, he went, I'm watching it and I'm seeing bits, and that's not as funny as what I thought it was going to be. Well, that bit's funnier. Oh, I need to put in more swearing, he says.
But Jim will tell you as well, like, audiences are really annoying, because you put it out one night and they'll laugh at certain bits, right? Sometimes it's the bits you're not even expecting laughter at, and then there's other lines as a writer you go, that's going to smash them, you wait and see, and there's nothing, and you're raging. but then the next night out, a different audience laughs at it's never the same. So all you can do is you're just playing the odds, you're just trying to get as many laughs, and as well as laughs, you want the dramatic moments as well. The best sitcoms, in my opinion, over the years, are the ones who could make you laugh, cry, sad and laugh within 90 seconds. If you can do that, the likes of Only Fools and Horses and stuff, they were absolutely phenomenal. That's the epitome to me of the best sitcom type situations,
I've got my tickets for the Alhambra.
Oh, good.
Could you tell our listeners how they can find you and how they can get the tickets?
Yes,
for
thank
the
you.
Benny Lynch story?
So the best way to get tickets and dates for all the venues is thebennylynchstory.co.uk. So that's thebennylynchstory.co.uk. That'll take you to there. That'll take you to a central website. There's pictures of the cast. All the trailers will be there, but there's also just a tab which says venues and tickets. Click on there. There's a link to every single venue. So we're going to 14 venues, so they're all in there. We will be coming to somewhere near you. I know it's an old cliche, but literally from Inverness to Aberdeen, Dundee, Renfrewshire. It's doing Musselburgh. So we're literally covering the four corners of the Scottish map.
David Carswell, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Brilliant, David. Thanks.
I have to be honest, I was a wee bit nervous before I came on, but it's been brilliant. It's just been talking to your pals in the pub. So thanks very much.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, mate.
A Celtic State of Mind can be found at axom.net. We're sponsored by Fansbet, the betting company by fans for fans.